about Mola Litumbe's death has come to me as a thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, not because this gentleman is a young man, or maybe because the death is tragic. Thunderbolt, because we have always wanted this man to be around us, encouraging us, especially in the liberation struggle for the independence of the southern Cameroons. Anyone who is concerned at these things cannot but be moved. Pa Mola Njoh Litumbe has fought the great fight to the finish. Now is his crown of glory, which hopefully God will grant him up in the heavens. His soul will rest in peace. There is no doubt about that. What can we do at this particular hour? An hour so disturbing. I looked around and only one thing came to mind. A prayer for Pa Njoh Litumbe. A prayer I composed. It's called the Litany of Liberation. And I want all Southern Cameroonians to join me in praying this prayer for this great man who has been a great instrument, a great resource in the struggle for land liberation, in the independent struggle of Amazonia. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. Christ have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Christ hear us. Christ gracious hear us. God the Father of heaven, have mercy on us. God the Son, Redeemer of the world, have mercy on us. God the Holy Spirit, have mercy on us. Holy Trinity, one God, have mercy on us. Jesus Christ, liberator of mankind, pray for us. Jesus Christ, freedom of captives, pray for us. Jesus Christ, liberator of the abducted, pray for us. Jesus Christ, rescuer of the troubled, pray for us. Jesus Christ, our justice, truth, Jesus Christ, King of all nations, pray for us. Christ, King of annexed nations, pray for us. Christ, defender of the oppressed, pray for us. Christ, Savior of annexed peoples, pray for us. Christ, refuge of the brutalized, pray for us. Christ, advocate of truth, pray for us. Christ, judge of oppressors, pray for us. Christ, scatterer of tyrants, pray for us. Christ, triumph of the elite, pray for us. Christ, benefactor of the dispossessed, pray for us. Christ, champion of the embattled poor, pray for us. Christ, courage of prisoners of conscience, pray for us. Christ, general of the army of the unarmed, pray for us. Christ, shield of the orphans and the widowed, pray for us. Christ, voice of the underprivileged and the disadvantaged, pray for us. Christ, hope of the homeless, the kidnapped and the abducted, pray for us. Christ, strong arm of immigrants and exiles, pray for us. Christ, decolonizer of imposed occupation, pray for us. Christ, converter of foreign donors of our oppressors, pray for us. For our brethren wallowing in squalor as refugees in neighboring countries, Jesus, save our homeland. For compatriots ejected from homes, confounded and starving in bushes and forests, Jesus, save our homeland. For the righteous brethren judged and sentenced by kangaroo courts, Jesus, save our homeland. For spiritual leaders fearless in speaking truth to power, Jesus, save our homeland. For the conversion of elites insensitive to the suffering of the people, Jesus, save our homeland. For disunity among leaders, from disunity among leaders of our country, Jesus, deliver our homeland. From imprisonment without charge, Jesus, deliver our homeland. From burning of old fields and harvests, Jesus, deliver our homeland. Let the southern Praise for a better southern Cameroon. May their hearts burn for self-determination, O Jesus. For a better southern Cameroon. May we never give up confidence in the way of life, O Jesus. Lamb of God, help of the helpless, who carries victory to the community.
Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move. Please now move. You move. Please open up. Okay, now open up. Now move.
listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I say, we wanna know who owns the land. I wanna know who owns the land. Aslan, hey, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I say, Soweto want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Papa Slam. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. We've been here since creation. What else do I know? Since the time of sun and sun. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and sea. Since the time of men and things. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. I said we must rule our purpose land. Purpose land. Oh! Okay now I want to talk to my people. Ira Daniela, oh, I will know. Yeah, Ira Daniela, oh, I will know. Now we are the crossroad. On the Femo, Lambela. Bill Sarova Daneta. On the Femo, Lambela. Opalimu Yagara Baba. Yeah, Opalimu Jasu Yaraka. Opalimu Zizanya Vetonye.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the broadcast. I am so excited you tune in today to be part of this broadcast. And for those of you joining from all of sub-Saharan Africa, all, and I mean all of sub-Saharan Africa, joining by way of satellite, I want to welcome you, but most especially those of you joining from ground zero, and by ground zero I mean the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Of course, I won't forget all of you Ambazonian refugees living in Nigeria, in Calabar, in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, in Abuja, wherever you find yourself in the Nigerian territory. And of course, I'm not forgetting all of you in the diaspora. I'm talking about the United Kingdom, all of the the European Union, and of course, Asia, the USA, Toronto, and all of Canada, and of course, South America. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. It's a special day, a day in which I am honored to sit here talking about a man we all consider to be a hero, a statesman among us, gone home. I want to welcome all of you on the social media. Please go ahead as usual. Hit your share button. Hit your share button and let the show begin. I see very few people on the social media right now, but please go ahead and hit your share button. Let us begin. Let us begin. This is going to be a packed show, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a packed show, a marathon. So please, go ahead, hit your share button for those of you joining by way of Facebook and YouTube. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, hit your share button and let's quickly populate these social media platforms. Talking about, again, Facebook and YouTube. The moment you give me 700 people on Facebook, I will come to you with the presentation proper. So please, if you are just joining on the social media, Facebook precisely, please go ahead and hit your share button and get me started here. I have the house, it's a full house here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am having with me here on the set one of our heroes who is still alive today. I am talking about Pa Augustine Ndangam. He will be joining me. Also joining me later are Intumfo Imbo Herbert, Sisiko Ebini Christmas, Barrister John Fruza, and I will also be having a team from the Fako County. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you remember Mola Litumbe was from Fako, and so I have a team also from Fako that will be talking about Mola Litumbe and his roots. And they will also be talking about Fako draft that is coming up on Sunday. Sunday is Fako's day. So please, it's going to be a marathon broadcast. I will not be taking phone calls today because by the time this is over, we are talking about 2 hours. So please, spare me any phone calls today. Please, as you join, go ahead, hit your share button. I want to see these numbers rising at the speed of light. We are about 200 now, more than 500 to go. Please hit your share button, ladies and gentlemen. And while you do so, let me bring you up to speed with what is going on in Ambazonia and in the colonial territory in French Cameroon. We have learned. Let me read something that a very, very dependable journalist from CRTV actually forwarded to me this morning as per what is going on. As per what is going on in the French Cameroon territory. The uncertainty that is going on in French Cameroon territory. I can tell you, we may not be getting all the pictures of what is going on there in Yaoundé, but there is no rest, there is no peace in Yaoundé, ladies and gentlemen. Let me read to you what a journalist, a CRTV journalist friend sent to me. And he wrote, "Many people are just so angry." In French Cameroon, ladies and gentlemen, she wrote, "Many people are just so angry." With school reopening on June 1, now we are going to talk about this because I don't know where schools are reopening on June 1 with the coronavirus all over the place. But this is what he wrote. "Many people are just so angry with the school reopening on June 1 when the number of coronavirus cases are moving to 4,000 cases when the number of infections are moving to 4,000 cases in La République du Cameroon, including Amazonia then. After the media raised an alarm on rapid spread, the government has refused, the French Cameroon government has refused giving the total number or disclosing the total numbers of those infected in the daily press briefings imposed or demanded by WHO. Many are infected and ventilators are not enough. So many are dying without getting attended to. So many dying of the coronavirus in French Cameroon and in Amazonia without anyone attending to them. That is what is going on. And he continues. He says, many infected and ventilators are not enough, so many are dying without getting attended to. People are not respecting any government measures. Someone at the palace hid the eye prescription. Someone at the palace, that is so-called Unity Palace, Etudi. Someone in Etudi, Unity Palace, hid the eye prescriptions of Brenda Beer, and now she is begging in a video for the prescription to be returned. She has some serious eye problems that doctors have told her she may go blind. She may go blind without her medical glasses. People are getting information about a possible coup d'etat. People are getting information about a possible coup d'etat if Frank Biya, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, takes over. And I hear the Northeast are preparing for revenge in the bloodbath, after thousands of their people were slaughtered on April 6, 1984, you remember, during the coup. I hear the South, Center, East, and Littoral will be targeted. People are discussing all this in hiding for fear of being arrested. Not still clear, not still very, very clear of being, if that man is dead or in a vegetable state, as we hear he gave orders to Ngo's family to be evacuated under the pretext of an emergency surgery. Many people are saying Frank Biya must not take over, but too scared. People are too scared to take to the streets. Now, this is a reporter friend sending this to me from CRTV. He says they are very much shaken by the war draft and are so eager to know what money will be used for. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are hearing that. This is Yaoundé in the jittery mood. He said the French Cameroon authorities are very much shaken by the war draft and are so eager to know what money will be used for. We will use the money to buy arms. It is not a hidden secret, ladies and gentlemen. That money is meant to buy arms. We did not ask for war. They brought war upon us. We will defend ourselves and we will defend our territory. We are not doing this in any secret. All right? So they should not wonder what we are using the money to do is to defend ourselves and defend our country. All right? But they are not ready to give up. Of course, we know that. They are not ready to give up because the oil is still flowing. From discussions, they will only retreat depending on new war machines or strategies the interim government may use on ground zero to defeat them. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is coming to you from a friend, a journalist friend in CRTV. So this is how jittery La République du Cameroon is. I learned they only recently started paying salaries for the month of May. And so they are running dry of funds. They are running dry of money. Too. Somebody at the finance ministry in Yaoundé has told me he is not sure that in the next 6 months, they still will be able to honor people's salaries in that country. So that is what is going on there. But besides that, coming back to Ambazonia, we learn of attacks in Bali. Attacks in Bali, killings. We learn of attacks in Bue, in Garibu, particularly. We learn they are there constructing their camp. We see all form of resistance against that in Garibu camp from the international community. Human Rights Watch writing, how do you get into a community, slaughter people, and instead of paying reparations, compensating them, what you do is you go there and set up a military camp. Now people are running out of Garibu with their lives, So what is French Cameroon doing? They issue a report, they indict their own officers, but then what they do, instead of punishing the officers, they punish the community by erecting a military camp in that community. And people are now running out of Garibu with their lives. So what is that military, what is that government trying to do? But the message I bring you from the Ambazonian people, ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking now to French Cameroon government. The message I bring to you is this: until the last man standing, until the last man standing, you can build 10 camps, you can build 20 camps, you can build 100 camps, or a camp in every Ambazonian village, town, and city. We are not giving up on this war. You called for the war, you slaughtered our people, you raped them, you looted them. We will fight the war until we have permanently erected our flag in Boya. You ask for it, you will get it. And ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are not rising to my liking. Please, as you join, go ahead, hit your share button. Hit your share button. This is going to be a very, very exciting broadcast today. We are honoring the life of the man you find on the bottom right of your screen there, a man who lived his life, fighting, ladies and gentlemen, fighting this cause. He lived for over almost close to 100 years, and for about for scores of those years, he fought for Ambazonia. He fought for Ambazonia. He fought for the independence, for the freedom, for the liberation of Ambazonia. I can say he is not going home, or he has not gone home with any regret, because I think he went home with a message that Ambazonia is free, not will be free, but Ambazonia is free, and we are free indeed. And so I have with me today a panel that is going to discuss the life and times of Mola Njoh Litumbe. Again, I have with me in the set Pa Augustine Ndangam, who had so many things to do with Mola Njoh Litumbe when he was alive. I also have with me here on the set, I have for Sisiko, Ini Christmas. I have for Tumfoin, Bo Herbert, Barrister John Fru Insa, and these gentlemen are going to tell us what they know, what they saw in the activism of Mola Njoh Litumbe. But first, I bring you my monologue from the interim government. Fellow Ambazonians. Once more, the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia announces the transition into eternity of Mola Njoh Litumbe. Mola Njoh Litumbe passed on Tuesday, May 26th, in the year of our Lord, 2020. The interim government conveys its deepest condolences to to the family of this great Southern Cameroon statesman who now rest with ancestors. As we submit to the supreme will of God in the homegoing of Mola Litumbe, we fervently hope for the repose of his soul and for God give his family and the bereaved people of the Federal Republic of Amazonia the fortitude to bear the loss. Mola Enjoli, to bear the loss of course. Mola Enjoli Litumbe was a living soul, guiding conscience of the Southern Cameroon struggle for the actualization of its sovereign identity. He was the gatekeeper and our quest for freedom and the moral compass for our just cause founded on international law and justice. Mola Njoh was a critical pillar in our battle to free ourselves and our country from the annexation shackles of slavery. He significantly shaped and focused the case against the complete destruction of our cultural identity, our human dignity, the rape of our economic and natural resources, and the spilling of the precious blood of our people by the barbaric criminal regime of Cameroon. Critical in this regard, Mola Litumbe led the Backward Lands Commission to institute international legal action against the criminal land grabbing and the dispossession of the ancestral lands by French Cameroon. He was a powerful influence, ladies and gentlemen, behind AAC1 in 1993 and the establishment of an enduring organizational structure of a struggle in our national capital, Boya, throughout our national territory and in diaspora. Mola Litumbe suffered persistent harassment, arrest, and invasion of his residence by enemy forces and paid agents. However, he remains steadfast and undeterred by these coward acts of criminality by the Paul Biya's regime. By his commitment, his courage, his personal sacrifices, and his extraordinary energy, he reclaimed Boya, ladies and gentlemen, from the enemy and opened the way for our current forward march to Boya. Visiting Boya anytime, denied access to the Prime Minister's lodge. Just the feeling that Mola Litumbe was in town gave Ambazonians that good feeling that they are the capital territory of the Southern Cameroons. Justifying his commitment to the struggle for our sovereign identity, Mola Litumbe, citing Edmund Burke, in a petition to the United Nations, wrote that, and I quote, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. End of quote. And he was a good man indeed. He was a good man because unlike the many Ambazonian elite out there, some actually listening to me right now, he did not betray his conscience and the destiny of his people. He resented and detested the conduct of Southern Cameroon's elite, or we also call enablers, who are bribed to support and to facilitate the economic terrorism, the genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes against our people. He proposed in his conscience, ladies and gentlemen, to uphold dignity and courage, as opposed to compromise and a slave state that enablers are paid from crumbs from the table of the colonizer to subjugate the southern Cameroon and Bazonia. Mola confronted the enemy. He confronted the enemy at home and in abroad. At home, he needs no rally or protest against the treatment of our people. He was one of the most sought-after speakers authority on matters related to the history and the struggle for the independence of the southern Cameroons. Out of the country, he accompanied the diaspora, be it in New York, be it in London, at the United Nations, or in Washington, D.C. at the White House, and in all, he articulated facts, the law, and the justness of our case. The case he presented was so strong and compelling, ladies and gentlemen, that the evil snake that colonized the southern Cameroon was unable to challenge the factual and legal basis of our claim to sovereignty over our territory. He made representations to the United Nations, Great Britain, the USA, the African Union, and audiences around the world. And most of the time, ladies and gentlemen, he did so at his own expense and at times in conjunction with patriotic progressive forces within our country. Mola Litumbe drew the attention of the international community and civilized world to the fact that the territory of southern Cameroon was not a colony of French Cameroon, but a far United Nations Trust territory, which until midnight, September 30, 1961, had a distinct international status by virtue of United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1608 of April 21st, 1961, of course. And that the overall United Nations Trust territory of British Southern Cameroon was divided into two countries, that is, the northern British Cameroon and the southern British Cameroon. Different dates, each country was redeemed to attain a full measure of self-government or independence. Mola Njoh Litumbe argued that Resolution 1608, paragraph 15, expressly provided that before the British Trust mandate over Southern Cameroon expired by midnight on September 30, 1961, there had to be an urgent tripartite conference comprising the British administrative authority, the government of the Southern Cameroons, and the government of La République du Cameroun, with a mandate to draw up a union agreement between the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun, based on proud undertakings and understandings of the two parties, more especially the creation of a federation of the two states, equal in status. This urgent tripartite conference never took place, and the mandate to draw up a union agreement that Resolution 1608 devolved on the tripartite conference was never realized. Britain failed to hand over the Articles of Sovereignty to the Southern Cameroons and was complicit in the annexation and colonization of the Southern Cameroons. Under pressure from Mola Njoh Litumbe, an expert commission impaneled by French Cameroon during the 50th anniversary of the annexation and colonization of the southern Cameroons and Bazonia conceded, ladies and gentlemen, that there was no treaty of union between La République du Cameroon and the southern Cameroons. By this, a fundamental condition for the fulfillment of Resolution 1608 has never fulfilled, making the claims by La République du Cameroon over the territory of the southern Cameroons illegal, null, and void. By this effort, Mola, Njoh, Litumbe succeeded to extract an official admission of the criminal occupation and militarization of the southern Cameroons by French Cameroon in violation of international law. Since the Union Treaty that was expressly required by the United Nations Resolution 1608 does not exist, the distinct international boundaries of La République du Cameroon, which was admitted as a member state of the United Nations from 20th September 1960, did not include and will never include the southern Cameroons. Furthermore, Mola, Enjoli, Litumbe confronted the international community with a commitment made by Amadou Ahidjo, the former president of French Cameroon, during the Fourth Committee of the United Nations, a promise that Amadou Ahidjo made during the Fourth Committee of the United Nations in 1959 that French Cameroon wasn't going to annex, or French Cameroon were no annexations and would not annex the Southern Cameroons. Since La République du Cameroon reneged on that commitment and annexed and colonized the Southern Cameroons, Mola Litumbe dedicated his life to mobilizing Southern Cameroonians to take back its sovereignty. He tirelessly mobilized national and international support for the United Nations to abet the annexation of the Southern Cameroons and the egregious violations associated with the said annexation and colonial rule. On May 14, 2020, James Doddridge, Member of Parliament, British Minister for Africa in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Department of International Development, wrote a letter to Mr. Sadiq, Member of Parliament, dated May 14, 2020, in which he made a deeply flawed and controversial interpretation of United Nations Resolution 1608. He did so in the hope of relieving the British of their responsibility for the violation of the United Nations Charter and the UN Resolution 1608 and the annexation and colonization of the Southern Cameroons. This subterfuge must fail. Again, must fail. There is no gainsaying that United Nations Resolution 1608 constitute the root cause of the Southern Cameroon conflict. The interim government of the Federal Republic of Bazonia is pleased that Britain has endorsed, ladies and gentlemen, the international, has endorsed the international mediation to examine the root causes of this conflict. This is consistent with the position taken by the United Nations, the European Union, the USA, the Commonwealth, and the African Union. The Swiss international mediation will provide an opportunity for the interpretation of the implementation of United Nations Resolution 1608 and its consequential effect The interim government is committed to honoring the memory and commitment of the departed hero and statesman to our liberation and the actualization of our independence and national sovereignty. This requires that we double. But I mean all of us, all Amazonians, redouble our sword to our county by county, local government by local government contributions to facilitate ground zero final push the welfare of our refugees and civilians at risk. Mola Njoh Litumbe, our torch-bearer of freedom, has left us with an enduring legacy of liberation for our generation and future generations. He is now gone to be with those who walk the same path with him. We are glad to say Mola has gone with a better story for those who left before him. I see Mola seated in the center of a circle and is telling a story. I can see seated round about that circle are John Ngu Foncha, Dr. E.M.L. Ndele, M.N. Bile, and I see Dr. Nsokika Fonlon too, S.T. Mona, Albert Mukong, and his friend Vincent Feko, Pa Martin Luma, Ayamba, Ekale, Dua. I just can't name them all, there are so many. But I can see the glows and the smiles in their faces as Mola Litumbe brings them the good news. The good news, ladies and gentlemen, of the redemption, the freedom, and the independence of the southern Cameroons, Ambazonia. May God grant Mola Litumbe eternal rest, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sitting in there to listen to this monologue here. At this moment, I am joined by one person, ladies and gentlemen, one person who walked this walk with Mola Njoh Litumbe, sat in meetings, traveled to places, had secrets together, secrets that they hope would free the southern Cameroons in their own time. I am talking about Pa Augustine Ndangam. Pa Ndangam, it's a pleasure to have you back on ABC, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Okay, you listen to the monologue there. Tell me if you got anything wrong out of that.
No, I don't see anything wrong that you have introduced. Nothing. I can only feel it.
Thank you, thank you. Tell me, how long did you know Njoh Litumbe? I mean, both of you have been in this struggle from time immemorial, but how long did you start working together, having meetings together?
Yes, I knew him before 1993. But working together for the fight for our country effectively began on April the 2nd, 1993, when the All Anglophone Conference met in Boya, and at the end of the conference set up a central committee of 25 members from the northern zone and 25 members from the southern zone, and the late Mr. Njoh Litumbe was one of the prominent members from the southern zone. From that point, I think we have worked together, as you have rightly said, till he passed away.
That was one of the consistent Ambian leader out there. When we first knew him, he formed the Liberal Democratic Party. In 1993, when the 81 was initiated in Boya, he was a very vocal Africa about the struggle, the sons of Southern Cameroonians. Tell me, what do you think was the passion driving him for this long?
Repeat that again, the question.
Yeah, I just said we first knew him from the Liberal Democratic Party.
Yes.
And we met him in 1990 at AAC1 in India. His passion to see free was evident. What do you think was driving him? He was in his late 70s, again, by 1990. What's driving him?
I think the communication has been interrupted by sounds. But from 1993, the late Njoh Litumbe was a political leader, the LDP. That is true. Professionally, he was trained, he was educated in Britain as an accountant. And this quality from his background was exploited in our struggle. Wherever he went for a conference, he was usually elected to either do something on the finance department of the Southern Cameroon or of that organization. And in the AAC, the central committee set up by the AAC1, I think the prominent role that Njoh Litumbe played there, and from there until his death. Let me start first of all with the mission after AAC2 in 1994. The following year, the Southern Cameroon AAC decided to carry the matter of the problem of annexation of the Southern Cameroon to the United Nations. And they sent a delegation of 9 people. 9 people. It was an impressive delegation, but at the heart of this delegation, the problem was the financing of the delegation from home to transport, to get visas for 9 people, and to transport them to and from New York to present this problem. This is one point where we want to pay tribute to the late Njoh Litumbe. In that 9-man delegation, 3 of them paid their way and their stay, their hotel. They paid their way out of pocket. Pardon? The others. Well, Njoh Litumbe paid his way back to and fro. The late Dr. John Foncha, former Prime Minister and Vice President of the Republic of Cameroon, paid his way to and fro. So did the Honorable S.T. Mola paid his way to and fro. I think we are also grateful, and we remain grateful also to Ambassador Fossum, who AAC just started. It was 2 years. They had not raised funds enough to be able to raise cash to pay for the rest of them. Honorable Fossum stepped up with selling his property and giving the money to AAC to spend in sending the rest of the people. We remain grateful for that. But apart from that, we remember and pay tribute to Njoh Litumbe from that moment they formed the AAC. His premises in Boya was like the rallying point, the meeting point for Southern Cameroonians, whether AAC or different groups trying to work together or holding meetings. His premise, well, we had two other places, public places, that were being used, but if you heard there was Southern Cameroon meeting in Boya, and you didn't know where, you just went to Enjoli to this compound, and you find where the meeting is meeting, the people are meeting. But the point you have introduced, which I wish to elaborate on, is where his contribution to the freedom of our country was mainly in the missions that he took abroad. He went to so many places. He went to Britain because he had taken his education many times. He went to the United States many times and had consultations in the State Department, single-handed. Nobody paid his fare or hotel bills. He did that on his own. But the one that I can talk about as tribute to him, and which I know more than the trips he made to the UK and to the US, are the ones that he made in Africa. He went on many missions, particularly to two places in Africa, for several years. He and myself met in Njoh every 6 months. He was pursuing the Barbarian issue, and I was pursuing the Southern Cameroon's lawsuit in Njoh. And we always met in Njoh, and we spent time there together. And I remember the last meeting that we had in Njoh. He had led a delegation, two of them were from FACO on the Barbarian matter, and 3 of us from all over the Southern Cameroon. 3 of us were there on the lawsuit to Southern Cameroon communication. And although Njoh Litumbe went there on the Barbarian issue, we met there and had to all meet together about the lawsuit of the Southern Cameroons. We were all together 3 in that last session there, and the 2 of them on the Barbarian, 3 of us. As I'm talking, I'm sure if our lawyer who was with us there is there listening in Tico, where his house and his office is, he will confirm what I'm saying. We met there with a difficulty. The difficulty was that the Barbarian matter had been thrown out by the Commission, and the lawsuit that we needed to write an appeal on something that the Commission said would disagree. We were lucky that we were there, apart from the lawyer, the Southern Cameroon lawyer, who was also, or maybe still, the chairperson of the FACO Law Association. We needed to write an appeal, and we were lucky that Professor Njoh was there on another mission. Professor Njoh was following up.
But if I may cut you short a little bit there, that appeal, I mean, the Barbarian case that you won up to today, as you heard in my monologue, La République du Cameroon has never respected that victory to implement its provisions. Today we have a situation where La République du Cameroon administrators talking about their unelected mayors, their DOs, and their governors are holding land, both in the northern zone and the southern zone. If I may ask you, what would you suggest we should do at this moment to bring this land grabbing attitude of French Cameroon administrators to an end? If they cannot implement a resolution from the court and they continue to grab land belonging to Amazonians, what do you think we who are left should do? What should we do? Litumbe is gone. You won the case, leave it with us now. What do you think we should do? Because we have been discussing about this here at the interim government, all this land grabbing thing. You go to Bamenda, all the land is bought over by Francophones. You go to the southern zone, it's all bought over by Francophones. What would you suggest we should do in this case?
Okay, before I answer that, I come to your question. Let me clarify one thing. While Enjoli Litumbe was following up that case, he was criticized in some quarters by those who held very narrow views and said that that case was something tribal. It was something that concerned only Bakwere people. No, let us correct it. That what he was doing, yes, it was about Bakwere people, but it was one aspect of the overall struggle. The Bakwere land issue was one aspect of the bigger picture.
Right.
If you come to our own struggle, the entire struggle of the Southern Cameroon, what is it? It is a dispute about the territory. It's a territorial dispute. If you want to go to the roots of the dispute, then you go back to decolonization, what happened then. But essentially, if you want to say one word about our struggle, about our contention with French Cameroon, it is a territorial dispute. The territory of Southern Cameroon belongs to the people of Southern Cameroon. Now, the land of Fako is part of Southern Cameroon. So, what Njoh Litumbe was doing was part of the struggle, an aspect of the struggle. Now I come to whatever he achieved in that struggle, the legal struggle, what can be done. The more competent person to answer this would be the lawyer who was assisting in that case. And I think what I can say is we should ask the right person, the competent person, what can be done. There can always be appeal to the court that decided.
How do you take an appeal for a case that has already been decided and it passed in your favor?
Let me learn, Chris. I don't have the document. When we talk about court decisions, we have documents. If he is gone, the lawyer who was working with him is there. I think I know him, but he should come up with the decision that the court made on paper, and he should advise what we should do from there. I think he's more competent. There can always be something to do. And we know that the Republic of Cameroon is not only in the Bakwere land listing. In all other cases, they flout. Individual cases, we know of cases like the Mukong case and so on, he won, and they didn't want to pay until he took other measures before they started negotiating with him to pay. So the lawyer will be the competent person to answer that question. But what I was interested in was paying tribute to what Enjoli Litumbe did in this struggle, and that was one. That was not all. What he did, and I can talk about competently, is his mission to Njoh and his mission to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, which I accompanied him. The one in Njoh, we went as separate delegations, but it was converging towards the same end, as I've said. The one in Addis Ababa, we went. It was a mission that it was a Southern Cameroon's mission of 4 people who were to go. The visa problems interrupted, and in the end, only 2 people went. It was an important mission delegated by the then interim government. 2 of us went with Enjoli, Litumbe. We flew together. We got visas. We flew together. We were in Addis Ababa for about 10 days at the AU, and we deposited an important document about Southern Cameroon. And we spent time there trying to widen the understanding of the Southern Cameroon problem in different quarters. That I remember very well. In the plane, long journey going to Addis Ababa, we sat together and we conversed over many things about our struggle. And there, we spent about 10 days and talked back and forth with Enjoli, Litumbe, and our brothers who are working in Addis Ababa. We talked and issues that in our struggle. And the document looked together over the document present what that document contains, because we are still in the struggle. Some things we will not say, but it is there. It was registered at the AU.
Okay. I think we're having some difficulties with your microphone there, but I will give you 1 more minute to make the last tribute to Mola Njoh before I get to the next panel. What would you like Ambazonians to take home from you, from knowing Mola Litumbe?
I think Enjoli Litumbe has left behind things which we are thankful to. He has done a lot of documentaries which are in different places, and they are coming out. And I know for certain that he has written a book. We appeal to the family. If they cannot publish the book, we will help look for a publisher to publish what he wrote. He has gone, but what he has left behind for the struggle goes on, should be used, exploited. We can look for a publisher for that book, which I know he wrote. We have only one regret that Enjoli Litumbe has left us at a time when, with the health problem, world health problem of COVID-19, we will not be able to do for him the kind of thing that we did when Pa Martin Luma passed away in Tico, or what we did when Chivayama passed away in Mamfe, or we did when Prince Hitler Mbingo passed away in Bamenda, and Dr. Ngumne passed away in Bamenda in Britain. But I remember Pa Ngumne's own, because at the funeral, at the wake keeping, at 2 a.m. in the night, we turned that funeral wake keeping, Enjoli Litumbe, and I addressed the crowd who were in that wake keeping with the Southern Cameroon message on behalf of the people of Southern Cameroon. He spoke and I spoke. And that memory, the moment I heard of his passing away on May 26th, that picture came up to my mind. The last thing I want to say is that he has gone. We will miss his wisdom, his leadership, his humor, but we thank God, as Chris said, that he passed away certain of what was coming. Like Moses, he stood on Mount Pisgah and looked across the Jordan, and he saw the promised land, and he saw the wind that is blowing, certainly bringing our freedom. And I want to end these lines from Oscar Wilde, the Irish poet and playwright, who said, "Death must be beautiful. Surely it must be beautiful to lie and listen to silence, with the grasses waving above one's head while listening to silence. Beautiful to have no yesterday and no tomorrow, to forget time and to forgive life. We want to say farewell to Mola and to assure him that we will continue to fight, to continue the fight that he fought for and lived for. He died in arms, he died in the trenches, fighting for the right of his country to be free, for the right of our homeland to rule itself within its own territory. May God bless Litumbe. May God give him in his rest. Farewell, Litumbe. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa Ndangamde, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming in to share these memories with us who are learning what people like you and Njoh Litumbe have done to see Ambazonia free. Thank you for coming in. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I will take you over to my next panel to continue from where Pa Augustine Ndangam has ended. And I have with me from the right, into Mfoin, Bohebet. In the middle there, you have Barrister John Fru Iso, and on the left, you have Sisiko Christmas Ebony. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the broadcast today. Let's start from where Pa Ndangam ended. They're looking forward to the funeral in Boya one of these days, and of course, I have no doubt his family and Ambazonians would love to see him cladded in the Ambazonian flag at Boria. Do you see that happening? Do you see French Cameroon allowing that to happen? I will start with Sisiko Ebony.
Well, I think our putting of a flag over our heroes is another act of defiance and resistance. They will try to stop us, but it is our duty to make sure we do it. So I don't know how that organization is going to be, how it's going to be organized on the ground. I don't know the people who are on the ground who can take the risk to place the flag on his coffin and to make sure that the colors of the nation, as we know it currently, of Ambazonia, are very evident during his funeral ceremony.
Okay, I think that we have a delay in your audio there. I will have that adjusted. Meanwhile, let me pass the question to Barrister John. Barrister John, please. You think La République du Cameroon would like him to be buried with a flag?
No, La Republic is not about to allow us to do anything, but know what I know about Enjoli and the family, they will allow that flag to be put on his coffin. That will come from. Because Enjoli, the statesman that I knew, the man that I call my boss, because he gave me my first job in Cameroon when I left the United States in 1984. He gave me my first job in his accounting firm called Williams, and he taught me the principle of
them for marriage. You are married. I'm telling you that Enjoli Litumbe knows our case better than any lawyer I know. And he puts it in a very simple prose for everybody to understand. And power will be buried in dignity. And no matter what the Republic thinks, if they care, they come there with their guns. We are sure that our Amber boys around Sase and Litumbe and so on will be ready to bury power in dignity. So I don't expect any opposition from the Republic. If they want, let them come. But we will be bearing power with our flag. I will not be there because you know for obvious reasons, Chris and all the panel, none of us will be there. But I can assure you that as a mark of resistance, like Ebony just said, that flag will be used on past coffin.
What does Ntumfoin think about that?
Well, thank you very much, Chris, and a pleasure to see Seseko Ibini and to see the barrister. Very, very delighted to be with you. I mean, I think that Litumbe achieved what perhaps very few of us will successfully achieve. There have been some tributes that have said, you know, that he's like Moses, that he looked to the promised land, he did not make it. The man lived in the promised land. He defied everyone and stayed right there and did what he wanted to do and was Ambazonian right there in their face. So Correct. This is the only man who has lived the promised land. He departed from the promised land. He lived right there on the foot of the mountain. I think he must have, the only thing he did not do is he did not collect the keys of the Prime Minister's Lodge to go up there and stay, which the people of Ambazonia would have granted him with great delight. But what is going to happen, no matter what disturbance happens, the people of Ambazonia need to know that they owe it to Pa Litumbe to show the kind of love that he showed to our people and the kind of love that he showed for their freedom. So I'm hoping that our people, not only in Boya, that our people all across our land will do what is done for a great leader. I have found it almost impossible to cry because of just how much I'm touched by what he represented and what he did. And the only person that I want to link him to is, I believe that Boya should be in the same mode South Africa was when Nelson Mandela died, when there was jubilation to say someone worthy of heaven has left our earth, and we should be glad for him and we should rejoice. We should, of course, mourn with his family, but we should rejoice because God has found a great flower and is returning to his kingdom.
Thank you. Barrister John, you are one of those who just left ground zero to join us here in the diaspora, and I guess you had a lot of meetings with Mola Njoh Litumbe. Can you tell us some of the experiences you had one-on-one with him?
Yes, Chris. The first one was when he gave me my job as a young man. I just got back from the United States at around age 30, 31, and he gave me my job. He gave me a job, and he taught me. Oh,
he gave you a job.
Yes, I worked for Akintola Williams, employed by Enjoli Litumbe for more than 3 years, Chris.
And he gave you a job as what?
As a tax and legal consultant. I was heading the tax and legal consulting department. And
in his firm or what?
I replaced an American lawyer who had just resigned. So he gave me that job, and I worked with him for 3 years, and he taught me a lot. He started, Pandangam just made mention of a book. That book, he started writing it in 1984, December, when I joined his firm. because he kept talking to me about Zumba marriage. He kept talking to me about we young people who think that we are part of this country when we are not. He made me know that I wasn't a part of La Republic of Cameroon. At that time, just coming back as a young man from America, I was migrant. I wasn't caring about the struggle. I have never known about the struggle. I can tell you that what I know now and what I learned from that time was taught me by Enjoli to me. Enjoli taught me Resolution 1608. At the time, I didn't know what Resolution 1608 was all about. Of course, he taught me the practical part of French civil law, popular law. But that's notwithstanding. When we finished the AAC plan in Boya, I had retired in 1993.
Right.
He had almost retired. He was, as a man who was running, who had a firm, he was going back and forth to Congo to Douala. But I usually go and meet him in his house in Congo, or I meet him in the office in Douala, and we can talk for hours. So after that AAC plan, I met him at least 3 times in his office in Douala and once in his house in Congo. And I see a man who has retired from accountancy into the struggle for the restoration of the statehood of the South of Cameroon.
Let me get back to Sisiko Ebeni, talking about AAC1. Many of us knew Njoh Litumbe then. Had you met him prior to that, or that was when he came into the limelight? Into you knew him too?
One of the things we have to is to really, there's a piece of this history that we have to state so that people know that there are possibilities, even in this political movement, for people to evolve. In the 90s, I knew Njoh Litumbe. In the 90s, I was a teacher in Monemba with the likes of people like George Ngwane. And Mola had formed his political party, the LDP.
Yeah.
Sent part of Chief Ngole, who was of the customs, to come to us, try to convince us teachers to support the party. The party was then for 10 state federation. So for some reason, we didn't like the idea of the 10 state federation. We were always on the bicultural thinking, return to the bicultural federation. So when Mola was doing his party, I wandered into Professor Benson's house once when they were having a heated meeting of the party members. So George Ngwane and I went to Mola and told Mola, that's when I left Monemba. We had left Monemba. I was in Douala, and George Ngwane was in Boya. Went to Mola and told him that, hey, this 10-state thing is not going to fly. So he should start thinking differently.
So essentially, he is one of those who evolved from a 10-state federation to independence.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I mean, if you listen to him today, you would not even think that this is a guy who ever believed in anything other than independence.
He evolved. He did not start up with, say, even the 2-state federation. He was on the Suela level.
That's correct.
So, Ambassador Fossum, the barrister Njoh would know that because we were of CAM and most of the 10 states were rising with Suela was against us because they didn't want to hear us the CAM notion of a 2-state federation. And at that time, the thing that we had as a big danger amongst us was the Northwest and Southwest issue. And Suela came up because they didn't want to have anything to do with the Northwest. And then the 10-state federation, whether Mola had that in mind or whether he was following Suela, did not look very good. So we went to his house with George Ngwane and had a talk with him. From the time we visited Mola, he started attending functions in Boya, like the book launch, because most of these political things If you remember, John, we were always going to Boya to attend book launches, and that's how we build most of. So Mola moved now from the 10 State Federation, got with the Ambassador, and Ambassador Fossong's party was for 4 State Federation.
Right.
So they came together now, and through the influence of what we're moving with AAC and all the like, and we went to their launching the day that I think I have a video that I put out there when we were attacked, when we went to launch the LDA, which is the Liberal Democratic Party.
Liberal Democratic Alliance.
I knew him more on the thing of trying to win him over into the bicultural federation instead of the 10 State Federation.
2 point. In your days in CRTV, I know that is when you guys really became journalists, celebrities in your advocacy for a free Ambazonia. Is that when you will also say you knew Mola Litumbe?
No, that was a little later for me, because at CRTV I stayed 5 years. I left with the launch of the SDF, and then went and worked 3 years with John Frundi, shame on him. 30 years after he's still president of that party, and Mola Enjoli died on the anniversary of that 30th. And all of us worked with the SDF believing that this was our thing, this is where we were going. And unfortunately, you know, they talk of our agents implanted in your revolution. This is what.
Sorry, let me hold you, cut you short a little bit there. I mean, at that time, federation wasn't even in the agenda of the SDF. Am I correct?
Yes, it was. I mean, the SDF was.
They flooded with it. They flooded with it.
Right. I mean, how are you going to achieve it if Frundi got power?
Wait. I mean, listen. The SDF, for those of us who considered it a pure party working for our goals, that party was set up to resolve our issues. Now, power became, in my opinion, an opportunity to do it in big style. Now, we didn't know that someone at the head thought something else and was doing something else, monkey business, I would say. But the connection with Litumbe came when he formed his own political party. And the issue now was, they are splitting us amongst the Northwest and the Southwest. So I leave that debate from the point of view of, here's this guy who really thinks that it should be 10 state, just to join Ebini there. The SDF was for a 4-state federation. But at
yes,
one
I recall
point,
that too.
They had a really, if I may just finish, and then you can come in, please. Yeah, I'll take a little second. The difference with that federation that the SDF finally publicly put out, which was a shocker for some of us, part of the reasons why some of us left was that, you know, they were looking at a Grafi state, Northwest and Grafi and Western province. They were looking at the Sawa state, Southwest and Littoral, and they were looking at the big center and South plus the Northern states. So that in essence was something that completely broke away. Now, Pa Albert Mukong was the daily reminder to Frundi, one, that you did not come up with this idea, two, that it was never about politics in Cameroon, three, that this is all focused on the people of Ambazonia and that you better return to that focus.
And Frundi never for once listened to Mukong, because I spent a lot of time with Mukong too, and I can assure you, and I can tell you, I remember standing, I visited Mukong, you know, his house used to be behind the Commercial Avenue. I visited him, I don't know where we were going to, headed to. We stood in front of Frundi's building at the Commercial Avenue. And I bet Mukong looked at that house and pointed to that house, that building, and said to me, one day, what Frundi has done to the people of the Southern Cameroon by diverting the coast, one day, Southern Cameroonians will bring down this building. He pointed at it, and that's what he said to me. And so all along, up to today, Frundi just never listened to Albert Mukong.
I think, 30 years after the launch of the SDF, Frundi has listened to nobody. He has proven that he would have been worse than Bia. I think if anything, our people have dodged a bullet, because we could have gone from frying pan to fire.
Sisiko, you have anything to add there?
Well, what I would say is there's some very interesting stories we can entertain ourselves with these guys. The relationship of Abel Mokong and Frundi. If you know, from what we got, Abel Mokong came up with the idea of the political party. Not necessarily from him. He's been doing this thing solo for a very long time. Always everything going to Europe and all the like. And he was advised that, why don't you try to channel this thing through political party? And that's when the private meetings started with in Bamenda, amongst all of the people who were in those meetings, who were the founders of the SDF, were Northwesterners. So from the story that we hear, and that Mokong told me to, because I traveled with Mokong to the US, where I met Njoh from Boerbert when they came after the house arrest. And Mokong told the people who were assembling in Bamenda that, hey, we can't do this thing. Let's go meet our Southwest brothers and try to get them engaged. So they left and came. They met Chimgole, late Chimgole, who was one custom officer, one of the members who started the LDA with Mola Litumbe, and then met with Enonchong, Dr. Enonchong, and Dr. Nkongo, who was also a lawyer. All three of them to dismiss the idea, and that's what made him to take Feko, who was in Douala, to go meet with the Yondo Black team. And you know what happened there. They went to prison. Mokong wanted to be the only one to be in prison. He said he's the one who started it. They should let him go. They didn't let him. They kept them until when Biya made his statement in Europe, in France, about, say, it's a legal right of Cameroonian, constitutional right of Cameroonians to have a political party. And I think Frundi emerged at the time, because, before you may correct this, but this is the story that I heard from the horse's mouth too. He emerged because he was the only one courageous at the time to submit the document and to take the mantle of leadership. So Mokong, immediately after jail, went straight to Europe. And when he was in Europe, he wanted Frundi, the party, to validate something that he was doing. And I think the party did not, and he came back with a vengeance that he was coming to fight with Frundi to take over his power. But when he came, he too was overwhelmed by the popularity that Frundi had at the time. I think they went together for Ndogmo's funeral. Is that Bafusam?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, they went for Ndogmo's funeral, and I'm telling you, the crowd that pulled out, Mokong just left him alone. And that was the time when we embraced Mokong into camp. That's how Mokong came into camp, and then we went to our extraordinary congress and voted him as the Secretary General of camp. So he focused more. And honestly, as we talk, as people evolving, Mokong has always been a Cameroonian nationalist. A Cameroonian nationalist along the UPC kind of mentality, which was the One Cameroon, the party that he started out. So
maybe I disagree with you on that, because from the way I knew him, he was always a Southern Cameroonian, not One Cameroon.
No, he evolved. He evolved, Chris. He evolved.
He evolved.
If I just come in here to,
yes, please,
to collaborate something that Sisiko Ibini said. First, yes, Pa Albert Mokong held Charlene Diche and myself in our small newsroom that we had in Bamenda on Liberty Square, and insisted on telling us the story of the SDF to make sure that the records were right. And yes, that record, we know that is right, that is what happened, that he led the process, he led through the whole thing, and of course the story about the Njoh Black and him wanting to be the only one to go to jail, that's totally on point as well. Now, Frundi, in the end, had the possibility of registering the party, because even when it was being tabled for recognition, there was no one bold enough to step up, and he did. And the other story is that, you know, the late Siga Sanga was not present at the time, so in fact they just wrote his name onto the signature to indicate, because he was willing. He was traveling at the time. I believe his wife was in Nigeria at the time, and he had gone there. So they had this little window with the Prince of England coming into Cameroon, where they wanted to take advantage. So that happened. But the other thing is that Pa Mukong, and again we're shifting away perhaps from Mola Enjoli Litumbe, but Pa Mukong had told the story of how he had nearly pulled Prime Minister Foncha in the halls of the United Nations, when Prime Minister Foncha was insisting with the United Nations that he wanted a little bit of time for our people to get independence. So his view about independence may have evolved, but the stories that I heard from his own mouth were all stories about why we were cheated on this independence, how leaders kind of let us down even before the United Nations, and how this current generation, speaking about Frundi and his own generation, and how this political institution that they put together has now just found itself dancing away to something else. The connection with Njoh Black was, I understand, was very strategic. The goal was to give the impression that it was not an all Anglophone thing, as the way we were called at the time, that it was not partisan, that it was national. And then as soon as Njoh Black heard about it, he wanted to jump forward, and you know, he ran his mouth, and then that's how they got caught.
All right, let's get back to Mola Litumbe. Barrister Isop.
Yes, sir.
Litumbe is one of the most consistent Ambazonian that we came to know. His evolution from a federalist to an independentist, and being very consistent in his story and narrating that story better than any one of us. What can we learn from his consistency?
We learn that this is a statesman who knew his environment. Enjoli Litumbe was, first of all, a very consistent Bakwere man who defended the Bakwere cause. And secondly, he formed a political party with Madame Lydia Lefanda, who later on took over that party after Enjoli Litumbe left. And that party was, like Ebili said, was for 10-state federation. So you can see the evolution of Enjoli Litumbe from a tribalist to a 10-state, and then after the AAC won, like Ebili just explained, to a bicultural federation, which we had before. And then from there, he evolved into this fight for independence. But I want to say that he started talking about it to me as his worker, and I was acting like a student, so it taught me a lot about Njoh marriage, that we are living in Douala. Right from 1984, when I joined him in December 84, until somewhere around 1987, 88, when I left. And he was very bitter with the French system, and he made it known to me and to the clients that we had, all these American clients that we were servicing, and all the British clients that we were servicing. I was doing the taxes, and he was doing the accountancy. I mean, he had a team of accountants. And he made it known that he did not understand the French system. But I can tell you that there is nobody who understood the French corporate law better than Enjoli Litumbe. So when he started this fight for restoration, what he had been telling me about into my marriage and developed it into the explanation of Resolution 1608, which he expounded on until he died. He lived by it and he defended it with interviews from CRTV, with interviews from various people. I don't know whether Go Heaven ever interviewed him. He lived through that and he died with it. And I'm sitting here, I'm telling you, I've been a lawyer for 30 years, but if there is nobody who explains the root causes of this revolution, which emanates from Resolution 1608, better than Enjoli. And I must tell you that I feel very heavy-hearted because my friend Mapani, his only son, is there alone and will have to bury him without me. But I take this opportunity to send my condolences to Mapani and to say that he was our father and we are together.
Sisiko, Mola Njoh represented Ambazonians at the tripartite, and then also there was this 50th anniversary conference that was organized by, I think, CRTV, in which he came out really leaving a mark on the way that we understood the annexation and colonization and assimilation of the southern Cameroons. Many people have since forgotten about that, because I remember that the newspapers ran with it. It was news all over. Do you recall that? Can you enlighten all of us on those two incidents, the tripartite and this 50th anniversary conference?
On the 50th anniversary conference, I don't know much to say on what he did, but I got some interviews, a set of interviews that he did. On the tripartite, I know that he was very influential in getting the 4 guys that we got into the Owona committee. If you understand very well the basis, you look at the people who were in that committee and who emerged, the people who emerged as the conveners of the AAC. Mola argued very much on that floor to get those people there. First of all, Monzo was at Central Committee CPDM, Etwe was CPDM, and Carlson was SDF.
Yes.
And Ekontang Elat.
Ekontang Elat was
LDP.
Yes.
I keep saying LDP. So Mola was very strategic, single-handedly, in making sure these guys got into the Owona commission, constitutional rewriting or reform or whatever they want to call it. And you should know too that it was from their representation at that committee and the memorandum they wrote that gave us the platform for calling the AAC.
Right.
And the AAC was organized by CAM, Cameroon Anglophone Movement.
Correct. And that is
and
what
at
I
that
told.
time, and you should know, as we are talking historical thing, at that time, we had come to a position where we had identified Enjoli as playing games with us, because Enjoli was the leader of CAM. We had already pushed him aside and gotten Ambassador Martin Pierre, and gave us the platform. Because remember that the memorandum was adopted into CAM first. We are the ones who took that memorandum